Hello, everybody. Welcome to AMA LTL. My name is Maria Suleiman. The webinar will be starting in exactly 9 minutes. Just wanted to come on to say welcome to everyone who's already logged on. All right, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started in exactly 3 minutes. I'm just putting up my bio there for those of you who are new to AMA-LTL. Just a quick description. AMA-LTL started 2 years ago by AMA Consulting. We are a government contracting firm that supports federal agencies with developing their leaders and their workforce and providing other professional services. And so we started this webinar series 2 years ago to support the workforce with continual learning, or what we call bite-sized learning, and just an interaction space. And so I am Maria Silverman. I will be presenting on today's webinar of what is magnificent leadership. My bio is up on the screen. Just a quick tech check. Everyone, please say yes, or I'm sorry, type yes in the question box, or just raise your hand if you can see the screen and hear me. Question or chat box. Yes. All right. I am getting a few yeses. That means that we are good to go. Awesome, 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 awesome. All right. So today we are going to be discussing what is magnificent leadership. Now we've heard so many different terms or different ways of categorizing leadership, and I think that all those different terms are valid. So we've heard transformational leadership, creative leadership. As a matter of fact, there's the Center for Creative Leadership, which supports a lot of federal leadership development programs. There's authentic leadership. I mean, there are different leadership concepts out there. So I came up with magnificent leadership because it's just a term that really spoke to me based on my 16-year experience, both in the public and private sector, and also the season of the times that we're in. Like, what do you really need to be made of, right, to be an exemplary and a successful leader in these times? We're living in a VUCA world, a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Very fast paced. Things are constantly changing. I mean, we're living a time of, dare I say, I would say turbulence, but I would just say there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on in our environment. There's a lot going on in industry-wise. And so, and we're, of course, in the information age. So what does it really mean then for you to be great, for you to be a great leader? And so that's kind of like what we're going to be delving into today. And the reason for this webinar series is that we have our Magnificent Leadership Conference coming up November 7th. We have a variety of federal agencies participating in the conference. We have Georgetown University, which is my alma mater, also participating in the conference. We have larger contractors like Deloitte participating in conference, as well as other small businesses participating in the conference. And this is going to be our 5th year of holding this event. It used to be a much smaller event just for small business federal contractors, but we rebranded it last year to the Magnificent Leadership Conference. And so this is going to be our 2nd annual Magnificent Leadership Conference on November 7th. And so we've kind of like been doing webinar series around the concept of leadership. Last month we did leading yourself, then we did leading people, and the last webinar was on leading people. And today we're going to be discussing the concept of magnificent leadership. So let's delve right into it. All right, I talked a little bit about what AMA does, but here are our services. I'm not going to go too much into depth about that. If you're interested in learning more about AMA, my email will be on at the end of the webinar for you to contact me. Okay, so what is magnificent leadership? What is magnificent leadership? Now, the word magnificent comes from the Latin root word meaning great. Mag means great. Okay, so of course, we know that this root word is the origin of different words like magnificent, magnitude, and magnanimous. So the 2 key things about magnificent is just, when you think about something that's magnificent, it's something that's great, something that has grandeur, something that has splendor. It almost seems like it's something that's so abstract, or is something that, okay, you're saying, how does that connect to leadership, right? That's the question. How does that connect to leadership? So the biggest thing, the aha for me was, great through the word magnifying glass. Okay, what does a magnifying glass do? So remember the root word magnum. And magnifying glass is something that makes something that looks small great in size. So a magnifying glass is actually, it works due to the laws of physics. We're not going to go into depth about that. But the biggest thing is you all know magnifying glasses, microscopes, or they're used in mirrors, or just the little magnifying glasses that kids play with in their toys. But it takes something that's actually small. It's small, but it makes it great in size. It makes it appear great. And that's really what a magnificent leader does. And so a magnificent leader is something that takes something small and makes it great in size. A magnificent leader lights the path of others, making them better and greater, making them bigger. Now, this is really important because we're living in a time of fewer and fewer resources. If you're a business owner, if you work for a federal agency, if you work for any organization right now, there is a trend for us to be able to do more with less. There's a trend for us to be able to do more things in a shorter amount of time. There's more push for efficiency. I mean, we're in the age now where you can sit at home, order your groceries, and your groceries will come to your door, right? So you really have to be, the concept of magnificent leadership is really, really apt in this time that we're in. And it's really, really critical that you understand this concept in order for you to be great as a leader, in order for you to really be able to accomplish and do great things, which is our tagline at AMA, we do great things, is that you really have to have the ability to take something small. You really have to have the ability to be able to pour into your people and help them unleash the greatness that already lies in them. And we're going to delve into, okay, what are the components of that? What does that look like? What are the traits that I need to have? And the one thing I always like to do with these webinars is I like to make them interactive. And so if you have a comment, a suggestion, please feel free to drop it in the questions box. I'm going to be checking the questions box periodically for comments. And of course, when you send a question or you put something in the chat, your hands are raised so I can see it. But I would like us to get started with a poll. Now, I want you to think about the best supervisor you ever had. The supervisor that really made an impact in your career, your most memorable supervisor, maybe somebody that led you in the past or somebody that you're currently working with. And so I'm going to launch this poll, and I want to hear from you what was most memorable about the best supervisor that you've ever had. So the poll is now open. I want you to go ahead and just pick. So we have 4 different options that you can pick from, and you can only pick one. We have people voting right now. So think about that supervisor. What was most memorable about them? What was the one thing that they did or that really made an impact on you, that really developed you, that really opened doors for you, that made you better? We're getting people in. We have 56%. We have a ton of people on the webinar today. So I'm really looking for everybody to participate. I'd like everybody to vote. We are 64%, 72%. Yay. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's get more people to take the poll. We are at 84%. We only have like a few more people to chime in. I do want to hear from you. I want to get your input. What was most memorable about a supervisor that has impacted you the most, or your best supervisor? What was most memorable? So I'm also going to share my supervisor who has impacted me the most, but I can't take the poll, but I certainly will share. Okay, so we have 88%. Can we just get a couple more people to participate so that we can delve into this data right here? We can get a couple more people to participate and get us into the 90 percentile for the poll. There we go. Awesome, 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 awesome. All right, so now the polls are closed, and I want to show the results. It is interesting. So Any thoughts, comments about the poll results? Anybody wants to chime in? Do you want to drop something in the questions box about the results? What do you think? Waiting to see if we have questions, but this is interesting. So the first question, the first answer was technical knowledge, experience, and qualification. That got only 9%. The second one was investment in team members' development and growth. That got 35%. The third option was work ethic and integrity. That got 22%. And then the fourth option was flexibility, give team autonomy to be creative, and that got 35%. So we see the options that got the highest score, the options that tells you what was most memorable about your best supervisor. It had to do with investment in team members' development and growth, and career, and then it also had to do with flexibility, giving the team autonomy to be creative. And then after that, the thing that was most memorable after that was your supervisor's work ethic and integrity. And it's interesting that technical knowledge, experience, and qualification was the least thing that you remembered about a great leader. And I do this poll, and even when I do leadership development, yeah, leadership trumps technical knowledge. Absolutely. Thanks, Alan, for that. I believe that when a leader actually leads and teaches, they are investing. Yes, flexibility should happen after the staff is trained. That's true. Thank you, Beth, for the input. But this is really never fails. Like when I do leadership development programs, and we're going to go into leadership traits, we see time and time and time and again that people never remember about their leaders, about their supervisors, their technical knowledge, their experience, their qualifications, the amount of degrees they have, the certifications they have, the quote unquote clouts they have, or their connections they have. They remember what investment that leader put in them, or that supervisor put in them, by training them, by investing in their development and growth, and then also by, once they're trained and once they've reached that place of optimal productivity, giving them the autonomy. I asked this question. We just did a program for GSA, and I did a exercise where I asked people to list what were the leadership traits that they loved most about their supervisor, and then the least the traits that they didn't like, that they liked the least. And the first trait that came up on the list is micromanaging. Micromanaging. So that speaks to the fourth point here, which is flexibility. That flexibility is people. I mean, if you've trained them, they know the work, they know the program. Then they want you to give them the opportunity to actually do the work. And so we're talking about magnificent leadership here, but what are the traits that you really need in order for you to be a magnificent leader? Now, there are different leadership traits, okay? And I'm sure that some of these here, definitely all of these are things that you've encountered. But I want you to think in terms of you as a leader, because that's really the purpose of the webinars that we do, is for your good, for your development, for your enlightenment. Think about these traits and how they resonate with you. Like which are the ones that come natural to you, and which are the ones that, oh, okay, yeah, I need to pay attention to that. That may be an area of development for me. Okay, so as a magnificent leader, it's very important to have ambition, a sense of drive, urgency, express desire for forward progress. As we said, we are living in a world of high change. So whether you change or not, the environment is changing around you. So you have to have that forward thinking and have that sense of urgency and agility to be able to move, to want to be better, or to want to keep progressing, forward progress. So that's a big trait that makes you a magnificent leader. The second one is calm. So it's almost like, oh yeah, I have to be ambitious, but then I have to be calm. And believe me, all these traits are, of course, we're all different. We all have different personality traits, and we all have things that come naturally to them. Some people are naturally more calm. Some people are naturally more spirited. But when it comes to the concept of leadership, when we talk about calm, is in a moment, right? In a decision, on a project, on a program. How do you carry yourself as a leader when things are not going well? So, grace under pressure, um, to be measured. Another way of thinking about calm is to be measured, because the people who look up to you, they're going to follow not what you do, but not what you say, but what you do. One of my favorite quotes about leadership is a leader is someone who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. So that calm almost shifts, if you will, the energy in an environment when things don't go as planned. When the funding doesn't come, or when we're short staffed and we have all this work that has to be done, that calm really comes into play. Another big trait that's important for a magnificent leader to have is authenticity. And I'm kind of skipping there. I'm not doing it line by line, but I'm just going by what is important. Authenticity. This is a big one. And I think that, again, with my background, 16 years in leadership and management, worked in industry, actually went to work for the government. So I'm a former Fed, and then now starting my own business and being an entrepreneur for 8 years, going on 9 years. I think that we were socialized when it comes to leadership to believe that a leader is someone who always has to project strength, has to be strong, has to be determined, has to be forthright, which is all true. But I think that the key to having people really buy into you is for you to be original, for you to be honest, authentic, and open, to be able to admit where you have your own shortcomings and limitations, to be able to say, yes, I messed up, I made a mistake. That authenticity piece really, really, really gets that connection with the people that work with you, with the people that you lead. And it's a huge piece of being magnificent, because one of the key components, and we're going to go into that, of magnificent leadership, is that you're developing people, but not just developing people for them to just be developed, but it's developing people to achieve a mission. And then also for duplicity, for those people to then turn around and develop other people. That's how you make ginormous impact. And authenticity is a key catalyst for that. Another trait, again, if you have any questions, I'm going to be looking onto the questions folder periodically. Let me just see real quickly. Great leaders have emotional intelligence. Absolutely. So I was trying to stay off of using that tagline EI, but Williams brought it up. Yes. And you notice that of the three options, nobody picked IQ, right? So qualifications, experience, all of that, education, all of that has to do with IQ. The three options: flexibility, developing people, which means that you really care for them. That's why you're developing them, and also integrity. That all had to do with EQ, emotional intelligence. Thank you for that. And everything that we're going to be talking about now, all these leadership traits, this is all on the EQ side. This is all on emotional intelligence. All right. So considerate. A magnificent leader is considerate, is helpful, cooperative, sensitive, concerned with the group harmony. A magnificent leader is not somebody who wants to go it alone, who is not going to be considerate of others in the group. Okay. A magnificent leader is daring, like change, likes challenges, new experiences. That is critical, because in order for you to do something great, you have to do something new. I'm going to tweet that myself. In order for you to do something great, you have to do something new. Now that doesn't necessarily, when we say change, sometimes people have this change aversion, because it means, oh, we're just going to upend everything that's currently working, or we're just going to keep reintroducing new things, new systems. And we see this all the time with programs, when it's like, okay, we're having a new IT system and another IT system, and now we have 4 or 5 different systems. Okay, so is this change really effective? I want you to start to look at change not from just the perspective of upending something new, but a different way of looking at what you're currently doing. What is a perspective that I don't have? What is a blind spot that could possibly be? So what is something new? What could be a way that we could refresh what we're currently doing? So not necessarily upend it, but refresh it to match the goals and the outcomes that we have for for our business or for our program or for our project. Okay, so you have to be daring. You have to be daring in order for you to be a magnificent leader. You can't do something great with just sitting with the status quo. You have to be unhappy with the status quo. You have to be not satisfied with the status quo. Guess what? Because we are living in a constantly changing world. We are living in an age of technology where things become obsolete so fast. And so if you don't have that courage to want to look out for a new way, a new perspective, a new outlook, then you're not gonna be magnificent. You're not gonna do great things. You're gonna be left behind. Okay, you have to be farsighted. And this is very important. Forward looking, insightful planning for the long term. So you see a lot of magnificent, a lot of really great visionary leaders, leaders that can look down generations. They can take a problem, say, for example, of racial inequalities, people like Martin Luther King, and look down generations and say, I have a dream. And he talks about this dream that at the time where he was talking about the dream, it looked like something that was frankly crazy, it looked like something that was an impossibility, but he was seeing down generations. Okay, so that's what it means to have be farsighted. A magnificent leader is not somebody who's going to sacrifice the long term just for short term gains. Now, yes, there's going to be a great mixture of tactical and more strategic, but a magnificent leader is not somebody who's going to make that sacrifice for a temporary high, if you will, and that's going to cost in the long term. That's going to impede mission accomplishment in the long term. So a magnificent leader is someone who always has that long range thinking in mind as they're making day-to-day tactical decisions. Okay, so a magnificent leader is also someone who's empowering. You're encouraging, helping others to achieve more. Remember, magna, large, great, greater than its actual size, impact, scalability. In order for you to do that, you have to empower people. So leadership is about influencing people and harnessing their strengths to accomplish a particular goal. So you have to be empowering. A magnificent leader is not somebody who is selfish with their knowledge. A magnificent leader is someone who fosters knowledge sharing, who is receptive to open ideas, who is encouraging, who not just does it, but also communicates that it's important to them that their people are developed, that their people grow, that their people come up and improve. And also demonstrates the importance of that, so that those people turn around and do the same thing and empower others. A magnificent leader is someone who is resilient. This is another very key component, because we're living in very high stressful times. I think that there was a recent study done by Gartner talking about burnouts being at its highest levels ever recorded. Burnout and workplace burnout being at its highest levels ever recorded. And even as a small business owner, one of the stats that I looked at, I think people think that businesses fail because of a lack of capital or what have you. I think SBA did a survey one time. I can't remember how long it was, but it says that 50% of businesses fail as a result of burnout. You just get tired. You get tired of going and going and going and going. So one of the key components of a magnificent leader is understanding how to be resilient. And we're going to touch on that a little bit. So resilience means that you're hardy, you're active, you're strong, you're able to persevere. You have staying power. Okay, you're able to persevere. A magnificent leader is someone who's enterprising. Okay, that can create something out of nothing. That's basically what enterprising means. And that's part of being magnum as well. Is you have been given, so your director says, I'd like to train. I'd like to increase the number of teachers that we train for English language acquisition by 20%. And so you've just been given a few sentences. Now you got to create a program out of that. So that is what enterprising is. Create positive change out of chaos. You have to be resourceful, pulling things together to create something that did not exist before. That is going to be required in order for you to be a great leader in these times, because sometimes the resources are not always apparent, Sometimes you don't have everything handed to you. Sometimes you don't have the funding. I was sitting down talking to a program officer, and she was sharing how um, she was skilled at working on programs that don't have funding because she has really learned to collaborate, private public partnerships, knowing how to pull in the right people, knowing how to create events, create messaging around a particular cause, around a particular project to get the right people involved because the funding wasn't there. It's very easy when you have all you need. Everybody can do something when they have everything in place. They have the funding, they have the people, they have the buy-in from senior leadership. But it's very tough to create something out of nothing. Um, the last leadership trait that I want to address is that a magnificent leader is somebody that's experienced. And I think that it's critical to understand that experience is not a static thing. Oh, I got 20 years at this agency, or I've been doing this work for 15 years, or I've had my business for 10 years, or oh, I know this industry, I've been in the industry 30 years. Well, just because you have those 30 years doesn't really mean that you experience has to do with continuous learning, is knowing the industry, staying up ahead of staying in line with the trends, not just knowing what's happening now but what's coming, having a broad perspective, connecting with the right people, knowing the right decision makers, knowing the play, being socially aware. Experience is not just number of years on the job, or the fact that you have a degree, or the fact that you've been in a particular agency for so many years. It's way more than that. And in order for you to be magnificent and do great things, you have to really have that experience. All right, I'm going to pause and see if we have any comments, any questions, comments. So I can unmute you if you have a question or a comment, or if you wanted to chime in. So if you would like to be unmuted and you have something to contribute, please raise your hand, and I'll be happy to unmute you for a few seconds for you to chime in. Let me see. So we also say a magnificent leader has to have the ability to delegate, and allocate people resources to the best fitted assignments. Absolutely. And that delegation piece comes with experience, knowing your people well, knowing who can do what, who's a better fit for what. And also delegation is also related to empowering. Because if you never let people try, then and you never empower them to actually do the work, then that's why you can't delegate. And sometimes people's skill level is because they've never been allowed to make a mistake. They've never been allowed to actually try. I remember the story of Steve Jobs talking about how he was fired from his company because he had a lunch that went terribly wrong. And but then that mistake, that big failure, turned Apple into what Apple became after he came back, because he learned the lesson. I think a lot of times as leaders, we don't realize that sometimes giving people the opportunity to, even if it means them making a mistake, is actually empowering them. It's actually empowering them. And so that delegation piece is really important. Thank you for that. All right, so as I mentioned, when it comes to magnificent leadership, I want to focus on or drill down into specific traits that I think are cornerstones and are going to really be important for you to develop and have in order for you to be successful in today's environment. So I love this quote from Oprah Winfrey, and she says, "I had no idea that being your authentic self could make me as rich as I've become. If I had, I'd have done it a lot earlier." I think that, this, and I can speak even from my experience, right? In starting my business, in offering leadership services, there are so many leadership theories out there, as I mentioned. There are different leadership theories. There's a piece of assessments. Different people write books on leadership. And, and so there's a tendency for you to want to go with what other people are doing and go with the flow. But in our company, what we've done is a lot of the programs that we've done, we tailor it to the client, and we design programs in a way that is customized. And I think that originality really speaks for itself. And when we get feedback from our government leaders and the workforce that we train and we work with, they always tell us one of the things that I really liked about your program, it wasn't cookie cutter. It wasn't a replica of something, just a traditional, conflict course or a traditional leadership development. There was something that was original about it. And that it really does increase your influence with people authenticity. I don't think that this is something that is spoken enough about. I think that because, in the workplace, we have to get along, we have to get things going. There's a way that things have always been done. There is perceived strength in you acting a certain way, speaking a certain way, and doing things a certain way. And so sometimes we feel like there is no room for us to really be authentic, original in our ideas. But I'm telling you that that is where the treasure lies. Okay, it really helps increase your influence with people. The second thing what authenticity does is that it helps you avoid serving your ego, because you can develop people when you don't have the sense that you're in competition with anybody, because you know that you're original, you're authentic. So then you don't have to serve your ego. You have nothing to prove. You're not trying to be the center of attraction as a leader. You're not trying to take all the credit all the time. You are just free willy giving because you are trying to get other people to develop themselves and be their authentic selves as well, and bring that authenticity in the form of ideas, in the form of their productivity, in the form of their engagement to the organization, in the form of their commitment to the organization, to the mission, right? And so your ego, you don't have time to be wanting to serve your ego, right? Because you've laid it all out. You're open, you're original. So that's one of the benefits and the value add that authenticity gives you. And then the third thing about authenticity is that because you're constantly open and you're constantly learning and you're willing to falter, make mistakes, and recover and learn, what happens is that you deliver high value to the organization over time. Because you keep creating that value over time, you keep getting better, and you keep developing those people get better, they develop other people. Overall, the long-term value to the organization is significant. And sometimes I always say respect is better than attention. People may do things that may get them the attention, may get them the headline, but at the end of the day, how does that really link to mission accomplishment? How does that really link to your strategic objectives being met? How does that really link to helping the people that your organization was designed to help? Okay, so at the end of the day, that long-term value is going to earn you the respect. That long-term value is going to earn you the respect. All right, so now we're going to delve into really quickly, we're going to touch on the power of vision. This is another big piece about a magnificent leader. A magnificent leader is somebody who can not just know the vision, but paint it. I love this quote. It says, it's by the poet, the really popular poet. He says, if you want to build a ship, don't summon people to buy wood, prepare tools, distribute jobs, and organize the work. Teach people the yearning for the wide, boundless ocean. That's the thing. Describe the work that you do in high value mission critical terms. So for example, if you work for NASA, as you do your daily duties, explain it in the term of what space exploration means for our nation. If you work at the Department of Education, as you do your daily work as a leader, as your project lead, as a supervisor, or even just as an employee, think about student achievement and preparation. How does what you do tie into that high value mission critical work? Okay, vision also gives you a wider and longer range. I talked about that. A magnificent leader is a leader that can see down generations, can see just beyond this program, or just beyond this project, or just beyond this contract. What is the lasting impact? What's that going to change? What's that going to do? What's the benefit going to be? Okay, the other big component of magnificent leadership is the duplication piece. I always say that if you're not a great leader if I don't see any mini yous, if you don't have any proteges, there is no duplication, and you don't create the culture of duplication. What if you leave that agency or you leave that organization? Then everything is going to die. So if you have the long range in mind, then duplication is going to be scalability. Is going to be a big component for you. So this is my quote. You cannot make ginormous impact without scalability. I'd rather take a small change that is scalable and that will be able to spread wide than do something ginormous that's going to stall. So scalability, lighting the path of others makes them light the path for someone else too. So it's that catalyst of really spreading that really makes you magnificent, because that's how you achieve great things. Okay. Um, and then resilience. This is the last point that I'm going to touch on. Resilience is really key. And that's why one of the breakout sessions that we have for our conference is on mental and emotional wellness. You, as a magnificent leader, you really have to pay attention to reflecting and replenishing, because you're pouring, you're doing, you're learning, you're growing, you're stretching, and all of that dynamic is tension. It's a lot of tension. And so reflecting and replenishing is key. You have to develop the skill, the time, the space to be able to do that. Don't go it alone. Don't go it alone. Key to be resilient is pulling in resources. And that brings us to the end of the material. We're a few minutes beyond 12:30. Try to keep these very short. I do have our upcoming events here, but for those of you who can stay on, I do want to hear from you. Do you have any questions, comments, anything to chime in to what I know we kind of like ran through the last key traits, but I wanted to pull that out: authenticity, vision, duplicity or scalability, and resilience. Those four things, you keep those things in mind, you will be magnificent. You will do great things. Any other questions, comments? I want to hear from you. So I'm going to stay on for another minute just to hear feedback from those who are still on. Great info packed into a short time. Thank you so much, Alan. Thought provoking. That's exactly what I was going for. Thank you. You're a great presenter. This material available outside? No. So we actually don't send the PowerPoints out, but we post the webinar recordings on our YouTube channel. And so if you register for the webinar, you get the link. Thank you so much. Got it a lot. Thank you, Carlene. I'm glad that this was helpful. So just really quickly, we do the webinars twice a month. The next one is going to be leading in an organization. So where we're going to be talking about how do you lead in a big system? How do you lead in a large system, right? That has multiple layers of leadership, that a traditional hierarchy or bureaucracy. How do you lead there? How do you make impact there? And then on October 9th, we're going to be talking about 5 ways to effectively manage conflict at work. And here's the link for the Magnificent Leadership Conference. And then I'm going to put my information here. Please stay connected with us. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, connect with me on LinkedIn. Presented efficiently. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rhonda. This was very inspiring, great info. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Love your presentations. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for showing different perspectives of leadership. Absolutely. Thank you. And I want you to take these little nuggets, so it's lunchtime learning, it's half an hour, but I'm hoping that, you can get something, and maybe it's just one piece that speaks to you. Maybe it's just the authenticity piece. Maybe it's the vision piece, having long range. Maybe it's the resilience piece. Just take one thing and really develop in that area. So thank you so much for that feedback. Let me see, more questions, more comments coming in. Oh, as I was saying, we have our website is on here, and my email is on here. Please send me an email. Feel free to reach out. I do want to hear from you. Yeah, okay, so extremely thorough, very informative, and extremely beneficial to those of us looking to improve leadership agency-wide. Thank you so much, Hermine. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really hard when you talk about improving leadership agency-wide. That's a very, very high charge, and I commend you for taking that mantle and having that vision. That's really, really huge. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for participating today. It's been really great to hang out with you. I hope that you continue to join us for more webinars, and I look forward to connecting with you in the near future. Take care and have a fabulous, fabulous day.